Snowboarding dreams, future and past. Here in the present, it's DRGNCAST.
Welcome to episode 13 of DRGNCAST. This week, we've got a guest who's somebody that I've looked up to massively in the good old days. Back in the UK, he was the national superstar, national champion. Sam, have you ever met him?
I never met Iain, but I feel like I know the guy because I watched Nationals. I've asked this so many times, man.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
And there was one time at the, I think it was one of the national qualifiers in Bristol. I was like a little Grom kid. And I was watching Iain Calvert, like hero worshipping and shit. And then do you remember that big spine ramp that they had, the mini spine?
Yeah.
So I was at one end of it, and you were at the other. And I was going to drop in, but then Iain Calvert wanted to drop in, and I was like, I completely fucking lost it, and fell to the flat bottom, and I was fucking mortified, man. It was the worst shit ever. All my crew took the piss out of me, and I was just like, oh my god, I can't believe I did that in front of Iain Calvert. And
behave, we've all done it.
I've done it twice. Shit. And then I ended up qualifying for the Nationals, and then it was 97 at PlayStation, and I was lining up on the mini ramp to drop in, and Iain Calvert steps onto the coping on the other side, and the fucking same thing happened, man. I don't know if you remember it. It scarred me.
No. I'm sorry. I'm sure we'd met, because I remember when I'd started talking to Jay and seeing all the stuff that Jay was doing, and he was raving about you and just all the stuff that you're doing. I remember watching it. I was just like, man, that is because you were properly into doing the hardcore drops on stairs and rails and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, fair play, man. Absolutely.
Oh, that was later, man. I'm talking about the times with big moon pads, 3/4 length jeans, 3/4 length.
Mate, we've all been through it. I've got some absolute
maybe a chain wallet,
I've got some shocking photos of me at 13 or 14. We're just going through that awkward puberty phase, big sort of sidey and all that, all that good stuff, right? Going to Radlands and
thing I always remember about you back in the day was you knew when you were going to do a flip, because you would stop and then put your helmet on, and then you were like, okay, he means business now. That would be you going for those front flip 180s.
But wasn't a helmet buckled at the back or something?
There was some bullshit rule when you're in a comp that it was like one of these weird COVID rules where essentially you didn't need to wear a helmet unless you were doing a flip. So nobody wanted to wear a helmet. So then when you want to do a flip, you're like, oh, right, yeah, top and fucking put that on, and sort of off we go. There was some weird ones where you were in a comp, and I think it came from rollerblading or something like that. Whereas if you can do something switch, you had to put your fingers up. It's like, fuck that. It's just can't you just tell which way somebody is going forwards? It's pretty
not with rollerblading.
I know that's that makes perfect sense. But this was snakeboarding. This was something sort of completely different. It's
wasn't there a kind of a big list of rules that you had to abide by at the big competitions or something? I remember Rick telling me something about that.
Is this Rick Lowe?
Yeah. Yeah,
no, not really. They weren't that. No, it was pretty loose, to be quite honest. It was sort of some of the stuff he kind of turned up to, it wasn't like it was like an Olympic committee or something like that. It was, it was 25 years ago, to be quite honest. So I don't remember that bit. Whether my brain has selected to just kind of move that from my memory, I don't know.
Yeah, cool. Well, welcome, Iain. We've just kind of gone straight in, which I love. Thanks for joining. It's super early in the morning here in the UK. Well, no, it's not super early. It's 9 a.m. You're in. Where are you?
I'm in Melbourne.
In Melbourne at the moment. Sweet, man. So thanks for joining late.
My pleasure. Well, no, mate. It's 20 past 8. I've got a beer. It's Saturday night. It's I'm 40. I'm just going to be sat at home watching TV, to be quite honest. So.
Sweet.
Do anything else there? What's the sort of COVID-y lockdown situation?
Mate, we are sweet. So Melbourne copped a really big lockdown for 4 months, but the most cases we ever got to a day was 700. So there's actually, I think about the same time the UK got to the same, Melbourne went into lockdown, but the UK just kind of sort of like carried on going. So we had a 4-month lockdown back in July, and we're sweet now. They take it really seriously here. They go hard and fast. So literally, in Brisbane, there was 1 case. They shut Brisbane down for 3 days. So it just quashes it straight away. So we're incredibly lucky, to be honest. It's life is. It's a bit weird going interstate. So I've just been up to Brisbane for a couple of weeks. Yeah. And you could be flying, and you could turn up and then go, oh, actually, you've got to go into hotel quarantine. But the approach here has been very different. So yeah, I count myself as very lucky, to be honest.
Oh, cool, man. Like, no, I mean, you travel a lot as well at the moment. What do you do for work? What's your like day to day? And
so I work for myself, and I basically help e-commerce businesses sell more. So the way I explain it to my mum is that I do Google ads and Facebook ads, but I just help them run the business. And I've just set myself up so I can work remotely, and take full advantage of it. My wife works remotely as well. So we'll normally be overseas from anywhere from like 3 to 6 months of the year. COVID pending, obviously. So it's normally based around a wakeboard park. You go, right, okay, where's a really good wakeboard park? Let's go there, kind of base ourselves, and then sort of off we go. And it allows me to come back to the UK and visit friends and family and stuff like that. So,
cool.
Love it. Lucky.
I saw you used to be, where were you? Was it in Prague for a while, or Budapest? Was it that you were?
No, it was Bulgaria.
Bulgaria. Okay, that was it. Was that, is there a good wakeboard park out there?
No. So when I moved to Australia, I worked for a marketing agency, and then I wanted to work remotely, and they didn't want to do remote work. So this was 2017, before like COVID, and it became common to do. And so the only remote job I could get was working for a web hosting company that was based out of Bulgaria. So started working for them. I was going to be based in Australia, and they said, "Oh, come over for 2 months." I'm like, "Is there a wakeboard park?" "Yes, there is." We go. went over there, and then was just kind of so I could travel around and yeah, it's great. I mean, I'm super lucky, to be fair. And to be honest, a lot of this actually came from snakeboarding, because I got to travel a lot when I was younger.
Cool.
And I was like, oh, actually, there's some really fucking awesome places you can live rather than Northampton.
Yeah, Crick, isn't it? Crick, you're from?
West Haddon, which is the next village over. Well remembered. How do you remember Crick?
Because
I just really a skate park in Crick.
Yeah.
There is a skate park in Crick that my good friend Ben Crawshaw organised. It's a concrete skate park, because we had a mini ramp in West Haddon that we'd organised. They're like, we're going to get us. It was quite good, actually. Actually, I think that was the first place I ever dislocated my shoulder. But yeah.
I like the first place. And we know Crick because we actually drove to that skate park. I think maybe we were meeting you or something. And we just camped on the grass next to the skate park.
Yes, that's right. Oh, shit. When was that? That would be 2000 or something, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it was around then. Because I remember it was not long after that, just as we were editing one, you were at my house on the day of 9/11 as well. So it was
That's right, I was, because we went to Hamleys. We were in Hamleys when 9/11 happened. Yeah. Oh, and that's right, we were watching, because the second tower, I forgot about that. Yeah. Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, you were there with my mum. I think she always commented on what a lovely boy you were. And we were
that's always how you want to be known, a really lovely person. Yeah.
Oh,
man. I forgot about that.
Let's rewind to the beginning. Like, how did you first start snakeboarding, and when and how did you first get into it?
So I used to live in a village outside of Northamptonshire called West Haddon, as we were talking about. And my friend, why do you always remember your friend's full name? It's not Tom, it was Tom MacArthur. Tom MacArthur had a competition snakeboard that he had bought at the local go-karting place, because for some reason the local go-karting place was the distributor for that area of snakeboards. And he had this thing, and it just fascinated the shit out of me. I was like, I just really wanted to learn how to do it. So, you kind of like toes together, toes apart, but there was nobody there to teach us. We just kind of had to figure it out. And I remember he had this kind of area, because when you live in the villages, like everybody's got a barn or something like that. And there was this converted area, and it was only, it was, I don't know, maybe 5 meters by 10 meters. And we just used to spend all evening just riding around this sort of like, this kind of like area. And I was like, there's something about it that just kind of hooked me, and it became a life obsession, to be quite honest. Like, I am at my happiest when I'm riding a board. I realized every major decision I've made in my life has been around riding some type of board. So started doing that, and then we realized you could get pro boards, and pro boards had suspension. So I was 13, so that would have been 1993. And you could get these pro boards that had suspension. And this is when SB UK came about. And I don't know what the audience is here. I don't know if it's many people who are sort of like our age sort of doing it, but original importers of snakeboards. And they put this, you used to get, so remember, the internet didn't exist at this stage, right? Let's just
That's
think
fucked
about
up to think that now, isn't it?
Yeah.
Exactly, right? It's kind of, and I'm almost a little bit sad, because a lot of the videos and stuff that you see now, that's going to be around forever. Whereas the stuff that I've got is on like VHS tapes that are in my parents' sort of like loft and stuff like that, or somebody randomly uploads something to YouTube. And sorry, where were we? That was 94. And then, so they sent out these newsletters. It was literally sort of like A4 sort of kind of like printed black and white. It's like, hey, we're looking for people to come and do demos. And there were about 4 of us at this point that all bought boards, and we just kind of go riding. We're like, oh, let's kind of give that a crack. And I think we even came up with like a name. We were Snakeboard Central, and somebody had hand drawn like a logo. And then we kind of sent this video off of us riding around the local village, literally doing nose picks on curbs and stuff like that. And we invented the toe pick. Classic.
Like a primo stall.
Exactly.
Kind of on a curb. Yeah, you used to do those on Mini.
Yeah, that's exactly it. That's kind of where it came from. We just sort of like learned them sort of like from doing that. Anyway, we sent off this video to Snakeboard UK, and they're like, yeah, come along to this demo, because what they would do is every summer they would just run these demos throughout the UK to show people how to snakeboard. Where was the first one? It wasn't Salisbury. It was some random kind of like market town, and we just went along, and that was the first place that I met Gadget, and the first place that I met Thomas Alanya, rest in peace, Thomas, and all these other sort of like people, and it just went from there basically.
Yeah. So like, because you became part of the regular demo team after that, like how, and that was Andrew and Guy who were running SB UK. Like, what was the setup like? Like, because I mean, for us, it was like the mythical offices in West London that we all, in my mind, it was like always full of like you, Thomas Alanya, RIP, like D Cooper, Gadget, all just. How was it actually like back in the day? Like how was it run?
Well, so they were the distributors, so they would import the boards, and they had the right to sell them in the UK, and so their job was to then promote it. So, and to be honest, I'm still friends with them all now. Like I'll see Andrew every time I go back to the UK, and I got an email from Guy a couple of months ago. And so what happened was we would go and do demos, but they would literally, and I've probably got it somewhere. I've probably got like a schedule of all the places we went sort of like each summer. So what would happen was I lived up in Northampton, and all the other guys that I started with didn't take it as seriously. They were just basically going out and getting drunk all the time, whereas I just wanted to go snakeboard. So what would happen was I'd travel down to London, and then everybody else that would kind of do those demos. So there were other people that would come from other part of the countries, like Mark Churchill, he lived down in Southampton, and the other guys were kind of in London. But what we'd do is we would go to the office, they would let us stay in the office overnight, and then we would drive to the demo with the ramp that they had got made and then set the ramp up. It was awesome. Honestly, it was just the best time ever, just because you basically just had, I mean, people that I just wouldn't normally sort of like meet living in a little village in Northamptonshire all get together. Everybody's got the same thing in common. They just want to go out and ride and try and pull girls in any way, shape or form. Somehow Gadget, who you've got to have on this, you're still in touch with Gadget, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Gadget used to pull all the time, and me and Tom was like, I don't understand what is going on here. You stink. You are absolutely. He was like, what is going on? But the girls absolutely loved him. Every place he went, he just pulled left, right, and centre. We're like 15-year-old boys, like just going, come on, man, what's going on? So yeah, the office, we would just stay in it. There's loads of photos of us just kind of like fucking around in there and all. And I mean, fair play to Guy and Andrew. You know, I mean, if I think about running a business now, like a bunch of teenage boys staying in my office, I'd be like, no, there's no way. Actually, no, before that, so before West End, how long have we got? Because I can go into a lot of detail.
We've got, we like keep going.
Okay, so Andrew used to live in Earl's Court, and the office was his spare room. So all the stock was sat in an apartment in Earl's Court, and I remember he had this box of snakeboard wheels. And because what would you get on a pro? You get there'd be like A90. No, they were the real shitty kind of rubbery ones.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Because they didn't used to be.
They were like a purple plastic
That's right.
Chip off all the time. Yeah.
And didn't did they have bigger bearings than a standard skateboard wheel?
Yeah, the axle on the old boards was I don't know how many mil, but bigger than a skateboard axle.
Yeah.
Right. So you couldn't put skateboard wheels on, and he had this massive box of sort of like wheels, and sort of like you were just kind of like, ooh, there's another wheel. That's kind of just falling into a. Yeah, so it was all kind of based out of London, which was great. And, for me as as like a 15, 16-year-old, because, I suppose it went from 14 to maybe, when I went to uni to like 18 or 19. So you're constantly just getting the train down from Northampton to go to London and just going skating. And then each summer would be amazing because you just go off on all these tours. And the first nightclub I ever went to was in Cardiff. And I went with sort of like all the guys from Snakeboard. I was like, I don't know, like 14 or something at the time.
Yeah.
Just good times, man. Really, really good times.
What were the guys like? So Thomas Alanya, I think I've met him a couple of times, and it was later on, but like the characters and like D Cooper as well, like we don't know, no one knows where he is, but larger than life to me, as growing up as a kid.
So if I think about it, D was always very good. It's almost like he was a little bit older than everybody else. So he'd kind of grown into himself, and he just had a lot of power. And the guy had balls. He would chuck himself down anything. But he was the type of person that you watch riding, and you're just like, oh, he's going to smash himself. He's going to we all know those people, right? But he would, he'd kind of pull it off, and he'd go sort of like pretty hard. It's funny if I kind of think back to it sort of like now, he probably excluded himself a little bit from the group because he was just about riding, and he would kind of go off and do it. And he was very much in his own head. But yeah, amazing rider. He just, he was awesome. Thomas Alanya, and he was just the most naturally talented out of all of them. He just had it. He could just throw stuff down. I was a good snakeboarder naturally, but I just rode a lot. I just got obsessed. I just rode and rode and rode and rode and rode. Whereas Thomas could just pick up a board and just go, oh, I'll kind of sort of like try and do this. And he absolutely had it. And I was so close to Thomas. It was amazing. And yeah, just a really good friend. And as we kind of said before, Guy was actually the person that let me know that he passed away, and he couldn't have been older than 25 or 26. Which is, super sad. I mean, I think he was the first friend I had that kind of like passed away. But moving on, Gadget just loved riding vert. He was all about vert. Like all of us were just terrible at vert. We were just like kind of having a bit of a go. You sort of like, I think when you're used to riding like mini ramps and street and stuff, you just kind of launch off stuff and you're not particularly good at it. Whereas Gadget, he just super got into it because we used to go and do demos down at Newquay Beach. What's the big surf event down there?
Boardmasters.
Boardmasters, right.
Yeah.
So Boardmasters would have a big demo where they would have...
the cherry coke ramp.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So like big sort of like ramp. So there's us just sort of like, like copping a frontside lip slide, being pretty happy with ourselves, or maybe sort of like a nose pick or something like that. And then you've got you've got like people like Jamie Beswick on BMXs just floating like a 20-foot air in front of you. And I think halfway through they were like, look guys, just, go sit over there sort of like for a bit. That was Gadget. And then Mark Churchill as well. He's now a pretty still like famous skater, just absolute legend, like the kind of the joker of the bunch. Very happy to chuck himself down stuff sort of like first one to go. So who else was there in that group? That was the core. He wasn't from the UK, but obviously we all know Ingo.
Yes. I was going to get onto the international characters go for it, man.
Well, if I can start talking about doing all the worlds and stuff
go.
like that.
Yeah.
So I remember, we started doing these demos, and we're all making it up as we go along, right? We're sort of we're watching like skateboard videos to get inspiration for tricks, like particularly like videos to get like mini ramp tricks and all this stuff. And then I remember getting an email from Andrew basically saying, hey, we want to invite you to the World Championships in 1994 in Guernsey. I'm like 14. I'm like, what? All right, okay, here we go. And then there was a group of, I think, three of us. So there's Tom, the guy who originally had the board, and then there's another friend, so like Ben Crawshaw. And so we had to have a chaperone to go. And we went over sort of like 14. It was sponsored by Pepsi Max, and they had this outdoor setup, and we met all like, the really famous snakeboarders that we'd seen on the movies. Kelly didn't come to that one, but his younger brother, was it Jason?
Jason Dean, yeah.
Jason Dean was there. Ashley Morgan was there. Like the legend. Yeah. JBE was there because he's sort of like one of the first one. He threw like this 7 off like a tiny little kicker, and it was like, oh my god, somebody's done a 7.
You guys always skated kicker to flat, man.
Oh yeah, I mean my knees are shot to pieces now. You should hear me walking along. It's just, I'll tell you what, it used to hurt your balls as well. You'd just be like bang, 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 like day after day. But see, we went along to this thing, and it's sort of. I can't remember where I came like 15th or something like that, or so, complete like out of contention. But just what an experience! Then you start meeting all these people that you like from all over the world. Like Ashley came from South Africa. There were guys from the US. There's nobody from Australia. There was a lot of Germans. So the big contenders were like British, American, Germans. Yeah. So this is the first place met Ingo, but like Ingo was kind of vying sort of like for it. Had he made his own board by that point? No, he hadn't. But I remember thinking he came over a following year and we got to know him really well. And we were all sniggering him because he was 26. But like, he's so old. We were all like 15 or something like that. He's like dead.
Not much has changed, man.
I loved Ingo. If you're watching this, mate, I love it. I love the fact you're still.
Of course, Ingo watches this. What are you talking about?
Yeah, keep going, man. Just keep going, because he must, mate. He's got to be cracking 50 soon. Surely he's got to be cracking 50 because he was a good 10 years older than me.
Yeah.
So that was the first one. I also remember my wallet got stolen, and so I lived off Pepsi Max for 3 days.
Oh man,
just absolutely pieces. So that was the first one, and then the second one was in Germany. So because that was the first ever World Championships, that's the one Jay won, JB. And then so the second one was in Munich. So we went over to Munich, and at that point we'd all started getting a little bit more serious. We were kind of like throwing front flips and back flips and stuff like that. And there was actually, I remember there was a launch ramp to bank. And this was like the big innovation because we could do bigger stuff and all these other sort of bits and pieces. And yeah, that was really good because again, all the people came from all over the world, and it's just this really kind of like big thing. And as a 15-year-old, traveling to these bases, essentially being paid. Well, no, we wouldn't have got paid. They would pay for all our transport. And just meeting all these people from all over the world and just all these different perspectives. Like I remember meeting Andy Cass for the first time. Did you ever come across Andy Cass?
Yeah, man, he was sick, man.
Didn't we meet Andy Cass in Utah?
Yeah, because he's from
there.
Yeah. No, so he's from Wisconsin.
Yeah.
And I think he's like a pastor now or something like that. Like seriously, kind of like religious. But you've got all this. Everybody's got this one thing in common, so it didn't matter who you met from around the world, and you guys would have this, right? You know, I've seen you've done trips to Chile and you regularly go to Barcelona and stuff like that. It's just the people that you meet. It's just so eye-opening. And I look at, you know, other people that I grow up with, this type of stuff that they were sort of like doing at sort of like at the same time, and it just opens your eyes to so much stuff. It just, absolutely incredible.
No, yeah.
And then the next one was in London. So London was under the Westway. And this is when I realized it was starting to get a bit sort of like bigger.
Yeah.
So, and I remember I'll never forget, actually, this is a great trip down memory lane for me. Just stop me when I'm saying too much, because I'll go.
Keep going, man.
Keep going.
So I remember it was the end of the summer holidays. So it would have been around the end of August. So we had our tour planned out. We were going here, there and everywhere, all the usual places like Salisbury, the Radlands, all these other bits and pieces. And so then they got PlayStation sponsored it. So it was like, oh, okay, all right, this is going to be, this is when it was PlayStation 1. We're talking like, you know, Tony Hawk 1 version type stuff. What a game. And I remember, and I've got a picture of it here, I can share it with you if you want. I remember opening Time Out magazine. Is Time Out magazine still a thing in London?
It's actually, I don't know if it still is, but it is. Yeah, it has been. It has been.
I remember opening Time Out magazine, and I opened the front cover, and there was a picture of me doing like a front side air.
No way.
I think I've got it here, actually, if you want to see it. Where is it?
So a lot of people don't know that PlayStation Skate Park is there because of the Streetboard Worlds, right?
That's right. That's exactly it. Because it wasn't the same place. It was a little bit further, sort of like down the road.
Yeah, and then they took all the ramps, and that's what they built PlayStation with, was the original ramps from the World Champ.
Right.
Yep,
that's right. So is it still there?
Well, it turned into Xbox Skate Park, and now I think it's sponsored by Nike, right, Jamie?
Yeah. I think it's Nike now. Nike's the Nike skate park. I don't know what they call it, but it's still there. I don't know after lockdown, who knows? But it's still there as far as I know.
Yeah.
All bets are off. Do you want? I've found it. Do you want to see it?
Let's have a look.
I think you need to enable me to share my screen.
How do I do that? Share. Technical difficulties. Where do share optimize? I don't know where to do that. Advanced. Allow. Hang on. Preferences. I'll have to ask.
I think you're in the right. It sounds like you're in the right spot. It's basically allow people to share it. If not,
if not, you can send it over to us and we can edit it in.
I'll send them sort of like over. So
yeah.
So I remember opening that. So let me describe the picture. So there's a picture of Mark Churchill doing a frontside air, and then there's Ingo doing a Japan air to fakie, and there's a photo of me doing like a tuck knee indie, and then there's a really weird picture of Ingo doing a frontside lean over. I think that's Alanis Morissette. I'm pretty sure that is.
No way.
So I'm kind of like, oh wow, this is all getting a bit serious. And then I remember getting off the tube, and you remember they used to make those posters, and they would send them out to everybody. And if you got them on those posters, you're like, whoa, this is amazing. And there's this poster, and there's Ingo doing like a backflip off like just a launch ramp onto like a landing ramp. But then I managed to get a photo on this poster as well of doing a Japan over like this gap or something. And it was literally fly posted all over London. I was just like, whoa. Look, I was 15 at the time. I was like, wow, this is wow, what's sort of like going on? And then again, everybody comes in from all over the world, like loads of the guys from the US. The US guys had just done a video. You guys will probably remember the name of it more than I will.
Hellburger?
Hellburger, that's right. And Pete Nye had done sort of like a backflip, what I would call in wakeboarding terms like a tantrum. So he was going straight off and he would just backflip over his head. And Rob and I was throwing like rodeos at that point, and like they'd gone off, like it started getting like pretty serious. So we're like, wow, okay, this is going on. And so he kind of went into that a little bit, like, because I mean, God bless you, Americans, anybody who's listening, you talk a good game, but to be honest, you're just the same as everybody else, right? Anyway, so we went into this event like that, and the setup was so good. It was just, for me, it was amazing. There's a big fun box, like proper sort of like gap, and there was this hip that was just absolutely amazing, and it was all built around the mini ramp that we'd been touring with for a couple of years, which we actually used to call Natural Disasters because it had so many fucking holes in it, which is where the name of the video came from.
Ah, nice.
Because it was a mobile skate ramp, you just had to kind of whack it together. Anyway, we've been riding that ramp sort of like forever. And I just went, like when you go to a comp, you just go in session, right? You kind of find your line, and it just all started coming together. And I remember just like boosting these massive frontside 3 tail grabs over the fun box and it feeling like really, really good. And then just going over the hip, just, when you find a really good ramp that just suits you and you just keep hitting it and you're hitting it harder and just pulling like big methods and stuff. Anyway, I was like, fuck, this is going great. I'm having a whale of a time. Oh, and they had this amazing hip as well. And then I remember somebody, because they'd started to get some really good coverage at this point. This is when it started to kind of hit the news and, all these other bits and pieces. I remember somebody coming up to me and saying, so you've been flagged as potentially one of the winners of this comp. Can we then come and talk to you? And I'm like, I'm sorry, what now? Sort of, because I was like the little kid, like there's Ingo there and all these sort of like guys. And it was just, I remember that just so fondly. It is absolutely, what a park setup, what an event. So I ended up coming, it was joint second with Kelly Dean overall, and Rob and I won it. Yeah. And it just went off after that. Like I remember coming back to school. I literally went back to school 3 days later. And I remember this really fit girl in my class who'd never talked to me before just came up to me and said, "Were you on News Round the other day?" And I was like, I genuinely had no idea. Yeah, I had no idea that it's sort of like, it kind of got, because it was almost like you live 2 separate lives. Sort of like you had your school life where you do all that fucking bullshit. And then I go off and I've got this other group of friends where I kind of sort of start doing that. So it just, at that point, that's when it really started to go. And I've got a load of clips where it's kind of in the financial talks. I think this is around the time that Snakeboard went public as well, like on the stock market, on sort of like the AIM. So they were trying to get all the, the publicity around it and all these other sort of like bits and pieces. But yeah, then after that, all of a sudden you start getting people going, "Hey, can you come to Brazil and do a demo?" You're like, okay,
damn. Is that where that photo is from that you posted up in the Snakeboard Streetboard group the other day with Kelly Dean? Okay, what did you put on the perspex of the landing ramp to spot the landing?
Pentagram out of duct tape. So it was one. Honestly, it was just the weirdest thing. You get a call from Andrew just going. So like there was one that, so the Brazil one asked me about the Las Vegas one, if I forget. Andrew just called up and said, "Hey, so there's the guys, they're launching Snakeboard in Brazil and they want some people to go for a demo. They're going to pay to fly you over." I think they paid us like a daily allowance as well. Maybe that was another one. Yeah. But essentially, as a 16-year-old who had just finished his GCSEs, and it was like, okay, well, I have to finish my GCSEs and then I can sort of like go. Like, okay, cool, we'll sort of like book it in for this day. So we go off to Brazil. So that was me and Mark, and then we were meeting Kelly over there. But I remember we turned up at the airport at Gatwick, and the guy who was organising it hadn't paid for the flight tickets.
No.
So you're like, So we got on the phone with like Snakeboard USA, who were sort of the main distributors who kind of broken the deal. They had to pay for it, and then the guy had to pay them back. But we literally did like a Home Alone where we've been sat in BA's ticket office. They're like, okay, you got the tickets, we can get you on. And we had to run through the airport. We got the worst seats on the flight. Mark was asthmatic. And this is how long ago you could smoke on flights.
No way, man. Really?
This is 1996. This is 25 years ago.
Wasn't the air cleaner though, because they recycle it more, and like now it's just the same shit?
Fuck no. We were sat at the back with all the smokers. So we're sat at the back. All the smokers would come back, have a fag at the back, and then walk up. And Mark was just kicking off. It was like, and I remember actually, this is such a trip out of memory. I remember landing in Sao Paulo, and as you come in and just seeing how big it was, and just being like, fuck, all right, okay, here we go. What if the guy doesn't turn up, and all these bits and pieces, which he didn't, obviously. So we sat around for like an hour just going, like Uber's not a thing. We don't know where we're going. We're staying in some random guy's sort of like flat.
No internet. No internet. Phones. Yeah.
No internet. No internet.
No Google Maps.
I didn't have a phone. I didn't even have a Nokia at that point. But I couldn't even send a text message. You were just fully out there on your own. The guy turns up. And so I think it was some weird place that we were doing this demo. I feel like it was like a fabric convention. Just something. It wasn't like an ISPO or a big kind of like board sport thing. We turned up, and the setup's good because it's like a roll into fun box to quarter pipe, which is just, and not a massive quarter pipe, just a fun quarter pipe that you can throw stuff off. But it was made out of perspex, and they had a smoke machine and a light machine underneath it that went off every time. And we were like, mate, you got to.
Oh, mate.
You got to cut that off. Yeah, great trip. I mean, but I remember we were staying in a super sketchy part of Sao Paulo, and I remember hearing gunshots go off in the background.
Oh, damn! As a 16-year-old, you've got to be, yeah.
Not
16-year-old from Crick.
Yeah.
West Haddon, not from Crick.
Everyone's got a shotgun in Crick, though.
Yeah, that's it. I remember I nearly got run over as well, actually. I remember I was crossing the road and I was looking that way where the car was coming this way, and I just saw lights and put my hands up on the car bonnet and lifted up and so I nearly got killed as well. That was good times. And then the guy hadn't booked any flights back, so Kelly had got his flight back, and then me and Mark were stuck in Sao Paulo for about, I think it was like 4 or 5 days. Basically, we just had to go to the airport every day, see if we could get on the flight back to the UK. No, all right, we'll just go back to, And then,
go.
Good times, man. Good. Well, I remember being in that apartment, and there was shit skating in Sao Paulo. It's not like you could go and hit the streets because everything's falling apart. Yeah. And I remember sitting in the apartment, we're just watching the news, and we just turned up on the news. They're like, and this is snakeboarding. Just like, what is going on? What is going on? Good times.
That was great.
Good times.
How was that trip? You mentioned that trip to Vegas as well, because that was that.
Right. So Vegas didn't actually happen for me. So what happened was, so you do your GCSEs in sort of, what is it, like May time?
Yeah.
Are they even called GCSEs now?
I don't know.
Really old.
I don't know.
Did you do GCSEs? So. You guys did GCSEs, right?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. And we're only a couple of years younger than you.
So it was coming up to GCSEs, and Andrew had called my parents and said, hey, there's a trip to Las Vegas to, I can't remember, it was like a surf expo or something. It was very much kind of like industry specific, not like a fabric one or something like that. And they had this amazing setup. There's probably a bit of footage floating around. I think it's like the first place that Kelly put down like a backside 7.
Yep. Infamous.
Yep, right. That was the one. And they spoke to my parents, because I'm still a minor, right?
Yeah.
And they were like, no, he needs to study. He's got to sort of like go and do it. So I couldn't go. I mean, talk about privilege or whatever, sort of like you want to sort of like call it. I remember being absolutely gutted because I just saw the setup, and Mark got to go instead, and they just had sort of like the best time. They'd like massive sessions and all those sort of like bits and pieces. But it was such a weird time because essentially I remember I couldn't go, or I didn't go to my GCSE parties because I was going to Portugal, because there was another demo that we said. And I remember being really pissed off because there was some girl I was trying to get it on with. I was just like, oh, fuck, I'm going to go there. 2 lives, just 2 separate lives, basically.
Oh.
Yeah, because we had so much support from SB UK because there was money going into it. And, you know, as much as it's sort of, they tried to push it a bit more mainstream. And I really appreciate what you guys are doing now for streetboarding. You're doing it properly.
Yeah.
You're building it from the grounds up. You're doing it sort of like the streetboard way rather than just trying to be in, you know, on fucking Blue Peter or Blankety Blank or whatever it is, you know.
Yeah.
I go on Blue Peter.
Blue Peter's not a thing anymore, is it? It stopped.
I don't know.
Is it?
I don't know. I haven't.
I think Blue Peter's done.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I'm gutted.
I'll go on Newsround. Is Newsround a thing?
I think they had something called something like that still. I don't know.
Yeah.
But
The
I
first
think
time I saw snakeboarding was on Motormouth. Do you remember?
I remember
that show?
Motormouth.
That wasn't you, was it?
No, I don't think so. What's Motormouth?
It was some old TV show from the 90s. For
Yeah, because
kids.
it would get into lots of different places. Honestly, it sounds almost big-headed, but you'd get people coming up to go, "Oh, I saw you on TV the other day." Like, "Oh, where have you got a copy?" Let's go. What was it? You know, was it me just eating shit somewhere, or did it look good, or what's the?
Yeah, I think. I mean, well, one thing we've looked at is it was possible, like we said, without the internet to build it up. And so with the internet, there should be some way to get, you know, it's such an amazing, unique sport that's something that like hooked into, you know?
Well, you think about how much joy you guys get out of doing it, right? You know, you would have both been riding for nearly 20 years now.
Well, I'm nearly 28 years, I think. I started in 94, so
24 years.
Yeah.
And you think about the people that you've met, the experiences that you've had. Essentially, it's just a vehicle for meeting interesting people, and and that's it, right? It's I mean, you never forget the first time you get a snakeboard going, and I think we were saying this before it was recording, that it's sort of, you know, the rush you get from doing a trick. Yeah. Just you keep chasing that, and then all of a sudden you've got to be throwing like a rodeo 9 to kind of get the same. Sort of like.
It's like my flatmate. He's just moved in recently. We've got boards lying all over the place at the moment, and he's been rolling around the kitchen just learning how to move. And we actually went out this morning. It's the first time he's really gone outside, and he's got it. He's got it down. It's only after a couple of weeks, and he's obsessed now. He's like, I love this. I love this. All right, I want to get my own board and stuff. And it's just, and then you keep chasing that and just keep going.
I've actually been just trying to just enjoy the movement and the riding recently, you know, because like I've been thinking back to when I started, and moving the thing used to be the trick, you know, that was enough that you could fucking go around on this fucking weird board, you know. And,
that's exactly it.
The feeling was enough, you know. So.
Yeah. So, I mean, Jay, you bodyboard, don't you?
Yeah.
So it's kind of, you know, the same with surfing, you know, like in surfing, a trick is turning.
Yeah.
or even so, my passion now is wake skating, and I just love sometimes just riding along and just kind of like carving, and it's the freedom that it gives you. You kind of get into this, you know, like flow state where you're not thinking, it's just kind of happening. And the way I describe it to my friends is that you just get this warm, fuzzy feeling after you do it, and it's addictive. It's absolutely addictive, whether that's on a snakeboard, a wake skate, a surf, a bodyboard, whatever that thing is, right? That's I think everybody needs that in their life.
Yeah. It just puts a smile on your face, you know. It's like, yeah. And
you think, like, I love those cruiser boards that you guys have come up with. They just feel so accessible to a lot of people. Yeah.
And that's where we want to go. I think since the demise of, you know, snakeboards, and like the last 20 years, everybody's been very trick focused, and it's all hardcore riding. But then I think, we need to go back to that joy of just cruising along and actually moving a board, and kind of take it back. It's not just about trying to throw a double rodeo or double backflip or whichever. It's that simplicity of just
It's not mimicking what skateboarding or snowboarding is doing. It's making it its own thing, right? That's exactly. And I saw that somebody had designed a board that taught people, so where it's got like a cross the plates are joined so that you can only move it in a way that will actually make you move on.
No, that was Pipo's thing.
Yeah, Pipo Grosso.
So at university, I studied product design, and my first year project was that. It was because I recognised that the issue with snakeboarding was it's hard to start. You can get on a skateboard, push it, and go along, whereas you don't get that momentum at first with sort of like with the snakeboard. And yeah, keep doing it, guys. Keep doing it. Keep pushing it.
No, cool. No.
You mentioned the demise of snakeboard. Do you want to talk about that sort of period a little bit?
Yeah.
How it changed things for you?
Yeah. So
what happened anyway from your perspective?
So from my perspective, so I first got involved when I was 13, so that would be 93, and then the last World Championships I would have gone to was 1997, which was in Universal Studios. Mm-hmm. I still have the T-shirt. This thing is like 25 years old.
Oh, that is gold dust. That is gold dust.
It's got the old proper snakeboard logo. It's kind of been washed a couple of times, but that's one that just sits in the bottom drawer. That has come all over the world with me. You know, like when you move, you get rid of stuff. I'm like, that's staying. That's actually staying. So I was then 18. So I then went to university, and at that point, that was around the time that Snakeboard UK they stopped trading. So I think, so what happened was this company called, so I think the main parent company for Snakeboard, because really Snakeboard is a brand, right? It's like rollerblade. That's exactly it. So they listed publicly on the stock market. It hadn't gone well. So then everybody was stopping to make money. And obviously, as you guys know, you need money to get things going and stuff like that. So Snakeboard, so the rights to make snakeboards got sold to a company called MV Sports, which made toys. So I think that became the end of SB UK, which meant nobody was importing like freestyle, Skinners, Stiffies, all those other bits and doing those tours and all the stuff all the good stuff that I was sort of like talking about. And I'd gone to university and basically discovered drinking and women. And admittedly, though, I picked to go to Derby University because they had a really good skate park. That was a key decision. It was like, I could go to Preston, but it's a bad skate park. So yeah, let's go to Derby. So I go and skate a couple of times, but it wasn't really how it used to be when you travel to London and go sort of like ride with all the guys and stuff changed and all these other sort of bits and pieces. So I kind of fell out of it that way, but because they're also, the thing for me was that group of people, what we were doing and all the experiences that we kind of got to do. So that was pretty much where it kind of ended for snakeboarding, as most people listening to this would know it. But interestingly, what happened was I studied product design. The way I got into product design was I designed a set of bindings.
Okay.
Because you remember the old straps where it's like Velcro and bungee, like your feet would move around all the time.
Yeah, they go for a song on eBay now.
Yeah, I see right. I just like.
Sorry, go on, man.
No, but you're right. So I kind of developed these straps that kind of kept your foot in place, and that's essentially what got me into university to study product design. So kind of again the opportunities that snakeboarded like afforded me. And then what happened was the company called MV Sports got in contact with me and said, "Hi, we've made a snakeboard, but we've got nobody to test it." As in, they've made this thing and nobody could ride it because nobody to snakeboard. And I'm like, "Would you be interested in getting paid to kind of test this sort of like for us?" I'm like, okay, sure. And then I ended up working for them over the summer as like work experience. So then kind of counted towards like experience in doing product design because they'd make all these products and stuff. You know, I mean, it broke my heart to see what they were doing. But like, yeah, because when you come from that, you know, trick sort of like background and everything you're kind of doing. But then I think I also realized that, well, wait a second, this is an opportunity where something better could come out of this and all these other bits. Ultimately, it sort of like didn't. But yeah, and then that was really the kind of the last of it. Yeah, so that would have been I went to uni 1999, so that would have been 2000, 2001. Yeah, and then it would have just...
Yeah.
Oh, and then, when did I first meet you, Jay?
It was around then, I think, because we filmed that section where you've got in our video one, in True School video one that we did back then. That came out in 2001. So
that was in Derby, those tricks, actually.
Yeah, no, you've also got the kickflip. You do a kickflip on like a sidewinder.
That's where I learned it, because Envy Sports had made it, and I'm like, I reckon I can kickflip that thing. Yeah, that's right. And we filmed at Radlands as well, didn't we? Because it had the big quarter pipe sort of like to bang. Yeah. It's funny, actually. I had this really vivid memory of sort of like riding and not having that joy from it that I used to sort of like get. But it was... and I remember it was kind of like a little bit of a realization. I was like, oh, I'm not getting the same sort of like thing from this. But now looking back, I'm pretty sure it's because of all those experiences that I've just kind of talked about. You know, they're life shaping, right? They give you so much confidence that you can go and do these other bits and pieces. But then, that's when you guys kind of took over the mantle. And what was the name of the magazine that you did?
Well, we first called it Anal Toupee, then we changed it to Suburban Droog, because Anal Toupee wasn't very commercial, I'd say.
Then it turned into Red Pen.
Yeah.
That's it. That was the other one.
And now it's this.
That's it. So that was kind of my last real kind of major interaction with sort of snakeboarding. But it's funny, it pops up from time to time. Like I did when I finished university, I did a season in teen snowboarding, and I was in a bar one night, and this guy just came up to me and said, "Oh, are you Ian? Did you used to snakeboard?" I was like, "Yeah." I mean, it doesn't happen here so like anymore, but it used to happen sort of like all the time. Actually, funny enough, another memory I remember seeing the first person snakeboarding in Australia, and they were on a beach on a concrete, it'd probably be like a midi ramp.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, wow, that's kind of like cool. That is at Alexandra Head, which is was probably the place I'd go and surf the most when I lived in Brisbane. Yeah. I remember driving past it, I was like, I've seen that before. That's where the guy was sort of like, so it all kind of links together there. Yeah. Good time.
Cool. Well, I mean, thank you, Ian. Is there any other memories you want to go down?
I've got a load of pictures here. It depends how long you guys want to go for. I'm quite happy to...
you can send me all those pictures and we'll...
Yeah. Actually, I've got screen sharing enabled. I worked it out while we were chatting. Go for it. Let's have a look.
Let's go through a couple of these. So if I just go screen share, so I want that. So you guys can see that?
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Oh.
So that's when
Alanis Morissette.
That is Alanis Morissette. So that's like page 2. So you kind of like open it up and again before the internet.
Do you think that album, like Jagged Little Pill, is all about Inga?
Could be.
I don't think that's Alanis Morissette, man.
Is it not?
I don't know. It's hard to tell. The dodgy photocopy. Where's her nose? She's just got 2 like holes.
Yeah, I don't know. It was around that time though, wasn't it, David?
Cunning Stunts. That was a shop in Salisbury.
Salisbury. Yeah, so they were awesome because they used to sell loads of boards. So every year we'd go and do a big event. I've actually got a couple of photos from there.
Hang on, let's just take a moment, man. Look at that fucking Japan Tuckney, whatever you want to call it, from Ingo, man. That's Steez.
Oh, mate.
Look at that shit.
I remember seeing him ride to this. I was just like, fuck, man, he is so good. He is just an absolute weapon. And I love the fact that he's still riding now. Fair play to him. He actually came over and stayed at mine a couple of times.
Oh, really?
And I remember we were watching. So what was the video after Hellburger that the US guys did?
Air Biscuit.
Air Biscuit. So he went and filmed Air Biscuit with those guys. I remember sitting down and watching it. I was like, mate, just run me through shot by shot, sort of like what kind of like happened, where are you going, and just fascinating stories, man. I can't remember any of them now, but good times. Let's see what else I've got in here. All right, so there's our mate Gadget.
Gadget.
Oh, yeah,
Yes,
man,
I remember that photo.
Yeah,
So-
all me and my friends all coloured our bars in with Tipex after this.
Yeah.
So that was that photo was at Radlands, and then there's a picture of me there doing a melon to fakie that was at some. I can remember being there, and I remember being sponsored by Boomslang, but Boomslang, they were just like a clothing company, right? And the snowboard clothing company. And they didn't have any stickers. So in paint, I made the Boomslang logo literally line by line, printed it out, and then stuck it onto my board.
I remember.
Boomslang's a kind of snake, isn't it?
I don't know, actually.
Yeah, I think it's a kind of snake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's is it a South African thing? Because there's a group called LV who did a song called Boomslang, but that's quite recent. Well, in the last 10 years.
Boomslang, snake.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
No, they were from up north, and they were kind of getting involved with the snowboard scene, and we kind of latched onto snowboard demos and stuff like that. And then they wanted to get involved. And I think my first sponsorship was, 2 pairs of shorts and a t-shirt.
Dude, I can't believe you were surprised Gadget got all the women. Look at that guy. Look at that
I know,
beautiful
right?
shape
At the
he's
time, we
making.
couldn't see it. Yeah, but in fairness, this was shot at Radlands in Northampton. So, nobody had any idea that he was kind of like doing. This is when we were just dicking around on like that natural disasters mini ramp that was all like taking. But so this was a magazine advert to promote the '96 World Championships. So sponsored by PlayStation. Yeah, there was prize money. Yeah, all.
Hey, BK is still supporting people.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What else we got? Oh, okay. So
Sweet.
I remember this. I had this flyer, man.
Yeah.
This was under the Westway, and so we were doing a photo shoot for the poster. And I remember this was just so we had launch ramp to landing bank. We just
That's
kept
fucking
making
gnarly, man.
Well, this is the thing. I frontside 3'd that, but it made a really shit photo, so they didn't use it. I was like, come on, man, I did a frontside 3 over that. They were like, yeah, this one's good for the poster. I was like, come on.
Did you have a quarter pipe to roll into it to get the speed? Because that looks like a gnarly gap.
No, so this is so where the 96 World Champs was under the Westway. This was literally next door to that. So I basically just scoot up, like 500 or 600 meters up there, and then just kind of get up a load of speed. And so the guy, I fucking hit that thing about 30 times, I think, because they just wanted to kind of keep sort of like getting the shot. That was always my go-to grab. That was you got a tuck knee, right, rather than Japan, because I had those black soft wheels on.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I always used to pull really gurney faces as well. Like I'd be like, tune up all the time for that. That was good. This was the ski show in Birmingham. So that was over sort of like a fun box. I always used to really struggle doing a left-hand grab because I was goofy. So I was always really happy with this picture. I was like, yeah, I can do pokies. Yeah,
that's boned out, man. You can see how you can twist on the snakeboard. You could twist the bar a bit, which I really think that gave a lot of like grabs and airs, like a lot of like unique style that maybe with the street boards now you can't do, because you could kind of flex the bars quite a lot.
Yeah, your heel could you can see how the bungee is like your heel move up. Like I didn't like that though. I like to
all over the shop. Over the shop. Yeah, we didn't have much choice right at that point. I don't know how you guys ride those wide bars.
You get used to it. But then I've been
it looks hard to kind of move on them.
Yeah. It's you get used to it after a while. But then when I have been playing around with like old school snakeboards again and bits like thinner bars recently, it is completely different, and it brings something back to it when you've got that like slightly thinner bar. And the flex is something that definitely is missing from the boards nowadays.
You could get more speed on the old bars. Like it sort of the last trick with the last photo with the gap between the two launch ramps is sort of kind of not unfeasible to like get the speed for that.
Yeah, you used to
get the speed for that off the flat with those old bars, but
because there's no running for it. Do you remember when long bars came out?
Yeah, man, that was a revolution. That was a revolution.
Everything changes.
Yeah.
So let me just check that. So this was in Brazil as well. So this was, you can't see the fun box sort of like down there. We've talked about that trip. Oh, so this is Salisbury.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
So
I went to that.
I went to
Yeah,
that
'cause
as
they
well.
were-
I was watching that.
When was this, man? What year?
I would say by my haircut, which would have been a solid curtain job, that was probably, I would say summer 96.
Yeah, I might be in the background here, man.
Yeah, I was there as well. That's funny.
Really?
Yeah. Me and Steph drove down. My mum drove us
Oh my
down to
God,
that.
I am.
There you go.
Okay, so you see the guy crouching down,
Yeah.
like with the sort of kind of like the blonde hair,
Yeah.
like above. You see that little kid there with the
Is that
tiny?
you?
Yeah, that's me. 100%
Oh,
that's me, man.
brilliant.
Because I remember I had this like billabong kind of like surfy drawstring kind of thing, which I thought was really cool that I wore.
Oh,
And
mum.
yeah, that's me.
Those
Oh.
demos were so good though, weren't they? Because it was all like launch ramp stuff. You just kind of cruise around. Sometimes we bring the mini ramp and yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. So I was overseeing my folks would have been not last year, year before, and they've got these two massive folders full of like all the stuff that you kind of did. So these are just pictures of like those pictures because they're printed out because digital photography wasn't a thing then.
And you had to hope that they caught the right moment. Oh,
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. It was absolutely more luck than judgment. You know, like,
you had to wait 2 weeks to get the results.
did I get it? Did it? No.
Yeah.
What's going on with this kid? He looks pensive.
I don't know.
I like his fucking, I like his top there.
Yeah, and wrist guards. Everybody seemed to be all over the wrist guards. That was that would have been on. I think that was a stiffy. That was a stiffy board, which I didn't like. That kind of sort of like stuck by just again left hand grab. I'm like, look, I can do left hand grabs. It's like a tiny little there, but left hand grab.
Yeah, boy.
board, Salisbury. I'm sure that there was some. Maybe that was it.
Cool, man. Oh, this has been an awesome trip, man. Just
Jamie, we forgot to do Flex the Fortnight.
oh yeah. Well, let's
And that's what leads into it quite nicely.
Yeah. So, like, let's go bring it up to speed to nowadays. Sam,
Okay.
who will be the Flex of the Fortnight?
Yeah, so Ian's seen it. And yeah, so Flex the Fortnight isn't about the best thing on Instagram. You know, it's just something that doesn't have to be on Instagram even, what we're talking about. It's just something that we like, that we feel, and let me bring it up. I forget. So, what's her name? Sophie Charlie? Oh no, it's not Sophie Charlie. Sophie, how would you say that, Jay?
I'm not sure.
Chalet.
Chalet.
Sophie Chalet. Anyway, she's doing a 5-0 in Cordoba, Argentina. There it is. I'll put it up here. Just her face afterwards says it all, man. And I think we've covered that.
Satisfying.
Just the feeling. It is about the feeling.
That's about the feeling, man. Sitting on that 5-0 and just popping it off.
Popping it out. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Ian, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us today on DRGNCAST. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Absolutely my pleasure. When you said, I was like, yeah, I'd love a trip down memory lane. It's just good times.
No, it's been really great to talk to you and just to hear about those early days and like how it does shape your life. Like something like this, you can just get exposed, to all these people all over the world, and takes you out of that little, especially when you're that age, out of your like local area and like travel it. It's just nothing beats it. Nothing beats it. Cool, man. Have you got any shout outs? Any thank yous?
Oh, look, I mean, thanks to Guy and Andrew again for just kind of making stuff happen. Everybody that was involved sort of like in those early days, just, if anybody's still watching, but also just to you guys and Brinton, just for, what you're doing now. Like, it's been so good to kind of watch and just see it kind of slowly build. And just keep doing it, right? Just keep doing it. Keep chasing it.
No. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Sam. Any last words? No,
just thanks for talking to us, Ian. It was good hearing all those old stories. And it's nice to meet you finally.
Pleasure.
Yeah. And for all of you out there, thank you for watching and listening to DRGNCAST. Don't forget to subscribe down below. If you've got any questions or anything, pop them in the comments. And until next time, we're out.
Streetboarding dreams, future and past. Here in the present, it's DRGNCAST.